All right, welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks Philly Sports. We're here on another NBA Monday. We're going to discuss the Monday, the Monday NBA news, everything that happened over the weekend. I'm here with my man Sam Wagman, Wagman95 on Twitter of Fourth and John. You guys know him from the SoCo and Swagman show. And then I got my man JD Oracle. You guys know Jamar from last week's episode. Welcome back to the show, my man. Ready
My
to
pleasure,
talk
brother.
to you guys.
Let's do it.
Give you guys some time here, man. Plug yourself in, Sam. JD, you next. Guys, talk about what you got going on. I'm going to go ahead and get the episode shared out while you do that. Plug yourself in. Please do.
Well, I am like Scotty said, the co-host of the Swags and SoCo show. Every Friday night, 8:30 p.m., talking NFL fantasy, and random times during the week talking to Eagles with everyone else. And I also write over for Fourth and John, all Eagles, all fantasy, all NFL draft.
You want me to go now? Or you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hey, so y'all know me. Y'all see my stuff scrolling. I'm JD Oracle _2 2TW. We have a show here on Heat Ratio Sports as well. We cover collegiate sports, pro, everything. I'm mostly a college guy because a lot of people don't really do the college game, but I really do study the college game. So that's like my repertoire. But I'm also a journalist as well. So I don't have anything big like Sam, because Sam's doing it big over there. But I guess I'm getting there, man.
Yeah, man. And it's funny you brought up college. I know you. I know you're a big Clemson man. Just had to, I'm watching my Duke boys get it together in the NCAA men's basketball. Finally, right?
We're back.
Yeah,
We're
that's
coming.
on.
There we go, man. I'm happy as hell. We waited long enough, right? Like they're waiting until right up until tournament play. But if they went out, they might be able to make the tournament. But it's looking like Jalen Johnson leaving was exactly what they needed. I don't understand that altogether, but whatever. But let's get into it, guys. Let's talk some NBA. The first thing I want to talk about today, and this is funny, JD, because you said it last week. I remember you said the Nets are some shit. And I know you a man of your word. I know you probably haven't changed your mind on that. I know. But we're going to talk about it. They've won 6 games in a row. They just ran through the Western Conference, Suns, Clippers, and Lakers in a row, Dubs. Last night, James Harden, 37 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. Kyrie Irving, 28 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds. Guys, how's it looking for the Brooklyn Nets, man? They're starting to scare me. I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't a believer as a Sixers fan, but they're starting to scare me the way they're playing without KD right now. I'll let you start, Sam. You want to go first? How are you feeling about what you're seeing from the Nets?
I really like what I'm seeing from them. I like you. I was skeptical when they first made the trade for Harden. I thought it didn't mean much if they couldn't stop anyone, because they really couldn't. They got losing Jared Allen, I thought was going to hurt them a lot with their post defense, but it really hasn't. And I think once KD comes back, if everything meshes there, and this just isn't a product of 2 snakes and Kyrie and Harden meshing together. Maybe the third snake is what screws it all up. But I think they're really good, and I think they're going to be a very tough out in the playoffs, and the Sixers will probably have to go through them to make the finals if they want to.
Yeah. What you thinking, JD? You still got I can tell you still got the same feelings. How you feeling, man?
Man, these dudes play nobody's defense, and it's like they couldn't. And I said last week they couldn't play defense on a cadaver, but I think this time my news saying is going to be they can't play defense on a mounted TV. Like they couldn't even stay there on a mounted TV and guard that TV. It's ridiculous. They're just putting up a bunch of points, and I get it. That's what the NBA is now. But in these tight, constricting games, when they start playing against like the 76ers and teams that really can play, even Boston. When they start playing against Boston, like in the Toronto, a little bit more skilled teams, and I know they beat the Lakers, but the Lakers aren't really the Lakers right now. Like we're saying the Lakers, we're using the name to like bring the attention to the bulletin board, but they're not the Lakers right now. Without Anthony Davis, they are a watered down version of what they will be when he comes back. So let's wait a little bit before we crown and do anything with them. And we got to see how they do when KD comes back as well. That's going to be a main a component to how they look, because right now it's enough for 2 players. But when you get 3 players, it might not be enough balls to go around. And then there's comes unhappiness. So it's a happy marriage right now, but we'll see.
And Terrell Evans hit my man JD with the hater. Oh man. And I forgot to say, what's good, Al? Thank you for tuning in, my
what's
man.
Good, Al?
Oh, okay. He said Lakers all day. I feel you, Terrell. They're just not themselves right now. AD's a key. He's a top 10 player, right? Like that's
exactly
right there.
Top 5.
So that's nothing, that's nothing bad about the Lakers, but yeah, the Nets. I mean, KD, you look at how he was playing before he went out with this hamstring injury, and I mean, he was putting up MVP type numbers, but it's all going to come down to defense. Shit will tighten up. I mean, once you get to playoff time, you're going to have these rotations simplify a bit. Even the Sixers right now using like this 9-10 man rotation. It's not going to be like that. We're going to be looking at more of an 8 to 9 man rotation come playoff time. But we got some comments flowing in. Brooklyn right now is super scary. You're looking at scary buyout market. Yeah, but the key there is that the Sixers aren't no pushover. So buyout market, we're going to be part of that as well. And players are going to want to come play in Philly because Philly is looking really good right now, and they're going to want to get be a part of that the same way they want to be a part of Brooklyn. So we actually got a very appealing team to the buyout market. And they're watching these guys like Korkmaz and like Mike Scott get in the rotation. They're like, well, if they can get in, I can get in the rotation. So when I look at stuff like that, it's great the way the Sixers are playing right now because it makes them a very attractive market. But Brooklyn is scared, in a sense. If they can get their hands on a guy like Boogie or maybe even Drummond, Drummond would be a nice piece there. I don't know how that would work, if they gave up Jared Allen and then they get Drummond from the same. That's kind of weird, but I mean, you never know these days. You mentioned Boston. I think Boston's actually a really good matchup for Brooklyn because they got that wing play, and I know we'll get into Boston later. They've been struggling, but Marcus Smart's out right now, and Marcus Smart can play some pretty gritty defense there. And, I think he's a big component to that Boston team. King James, look at his numbers at this stage. Yeah, I feel that. Okay, now we hating. We're going to get to the Ben Simmons stuff, but we're hating.
What you got to do is you got to look past it because nobody's saying nothing negative about the Lakers yet. We actually was talking negative about Brooklyn.
That's what I'm saying.
Listening is fundamental. It's like reading. Yeah. You got to listen and you got to read fundamentally to get it. But we ain't saying nothing bad about the Lakers just ain't what they were because AD is out. AD is a big piece to that team. I don't care. LeBron is the man. Nobody's debating that. But without AD, that team looks different. They just do.
Exactly. And Ben, a top 10 point guard, he's not just a point guard, bro. So try again.
He's in every
position on the court.
He got 5 positions.
We can go ahead since we got the haters in the building on the Sixers today. We can have some Sixers talk, man. What I want to first get to, obviously, we were recapping that game from last night in Toronto. Did Toronto lay down the blueprint on how to stop the Sixers? I feel like it was really an obvious game plan that should have been, it should have been thought about before. But obviously, you got to make those in-game adjustments. If I see the same thing on Tuesday, I'm going to be a little worried. How are y'all feeling about that? How the Raptors played Embiid last night and how they kind of made the rest of the team win the game, right? Whoever wants to
I just thought that no matter what they could do, they couldn't stop Van Vliet from throwing it up from deep, and he'll do that all game. And if he's hot, the Raptors are gonna roll because that's their entire game plan. And the Sixers are not a great 3-point defensive team.
Yeah.
If they can't stop it, they're gonna lose, and they're gonna have trouble later on in the season.
That's a big point right there, and that's what kind of worries me the most about this team is just trading 2s for 3s. Ben Simmons, to your point, has been going off lately, scoring, and is that part of the game plan, right? Let Ben go as long as Embiid isn't controlling the game. So that's part of the equation there. How are you feeling, JD?
All right, so it's a lot to unpack. So the Sixers are perplexing me, and I told you that in the text. They're kind of doing this Jedi mind trick thing. It's like right when I think they got it all figured out, they have a letdown. But I went back to look at a couple different teams, and I went back and looked at the Celtics when Doc coached them, and I looked at that season. I think I told you this as well. That season in this team looks a lot alike. If you look at the players and the roles that they play, those teams have a very specific DNA to them. Especially even when it comes down to Rondo, like they got a player like Rondo and Ben Simmons. Like Rondo's a lot smaller, but they play the same role. They don't shoot a lot of outside shots, and they are the floor general for that team. So it's just like when people look at it, I think we'll look at it and we'll say, okay, if somebody does that to us again, then we might get into trouble. But the thing about it is, if the playoffs get closer, everything slows down. And when we got a big man like that in the middle with Joel Embiid, who's playing out of his mind right now, even the games that they lose, I'm actually kind of impressed by the way he's playing. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't think we should get too worried. They just came off a road trip, and on top of that, and we don't know what that's going to do to their bodies and how tired they actually are and how worn down they are. So let's see how we look after the break. Even Tuesday, I'm not really worried about the next game because we're about to go into the All-Star break. So let's just give it a little time. Let's let them get some rest. Let them go home and recharge because they really haven't had a chance to recharge either because they haven't traveled since January. Well, when they shut down, was it February? Because the bubble was all in one place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one day I traveled to Florida and then they were there playing. So let's give them some time. I don't want to make too much out of it. Like, I'm not worried.
My worry is
go ahead.
One thing I really want to put in. My worry is that this team is too dependent on Embiid to ball out every night. Say he has has off games here and there, like he did last night, and last night wasn't a great game. What happens then? We're going to lose because this team has not shown that they can win without Embiid. Whether he's having an off night or he's just not playing, this team can't win without him. So they need to learn. They need to learn to be able to have their. And last night was the first time I think they've been fully healthy in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
So they need to learn how to mold their game plan around those guys coming off the bench to where that if Embiid is not having his best game, that he needs to be stepped in for, and there needs to be scoring that can make up for what he's not putting in that night. Those 10, 15 points that he's not getting will make all the difference.
Yeah. And, I thought you brought up a good point there with, the team just finally getting fully healthy. What's up, Soko? Just want to say.
What's up, Soko?
Hey, what up, Soko? Thanks for tuning in, brother. But no, I just wanted to kind of point that out. This whole season, it's been spotty when the entire team is healthy. So, you look at Shake in the first half last night, couldn't even get acclimated, off the bench. They tried to put him out there early, get him some shots up. Couldn't get acclimated. Picked it up a little bit in the second half, hit 3 threes, but still just not the normal Shake. Get into the rack, get into the free throw line. And then, of course, Ben Simmons missed the last 3 games. And it's been like that all season. Curry missed some time. Embiid's missed some time. Simmons missed some time. So that's the other thing. And I think that's what worries me. It's not the actual team that worries me. It's the amount of time that they get to all play together and be healthy. That's what worries me. And, and then you add in, if they do make a move, right, then now you're going to have to get new pieces acclimated and you're starting the process all over again. So, and I don't, that was bad terminology with the process. We're not starting the process all over.
No,
but
we get it.
Process of getting acclimated, getting these guys, comfortable playing with one another. I think something about last night's game that really, really bothered me was the indecisiveness. And my man Al called it out last night on Heat Ratio. Andre called it out as well. You watched Seth Curry, you watched Tobias, you watched Shake Milton. They were all so indecisive with these open shots that they were getting. And JD, you pointed it out. Embiid didn't play, terrible. If Embiid's basement game is 25 and 17, then
exactly.
this is MVP.
Yeah.
Like If that's
Right.
his basement, then he is MVP right now. Like, but aside from that, he only had 2 turnovers last night, and I think that is key there because he was getting double teamed, different looks thrown at him all night, and he was finding the open man. Now, when when guys like Matisse Thybulle and Seth Curry even just won't shoot these open shots, that's going to cost us because, like my man Vinny said earlier, 28th in 3-point attempts. That's how we're losing. You know what I mean? We're not defending the 3 well, and then on top of it, we just don't even shoot the 3 that much. We got Soko here. Sixers are in a prime spot to make a run later in the season, get conditioned, get healthy, make something matters. That's exactly right. I think he's spot on there. The key is getting healthy down the stretch, making sure Embiid is there, making sure Simmons is there. They get acclimated. Obviously, you're going to have Embiid load managing, but I think Soko's spot on right there. And then the other point
real
out.
Quick, Scotty.
Yeah.
Real quick, Scotty. So, like you said something. Like I said this probably 2 weeks ago on another show. It's just everybody wants to sell to stop. We're always in a position where we want to sell. Everybody's talking about let's trade, let's get somebody, let's pick somebody up near the break. And that's fine, but it doesn't fix the problem that the Sixers have. The problem that the Sixers have is acclimation to each other and playing with each other, gaining that chemistry. Throwing a new person, even this Bradley Beal, or I've heard Lowry, even though he's a great point guard. Yeah, anybody. That does not fix the issue. They don't. Right. It's not. The issue isn't that they're not a good team. The issue is they're not having good coaching. The issue is they're not acclimated. They don't know each other that well. It's like they're playing pickup. The guys that come to the pickup game when they're 5 already, they always run everybody, even if they're not even that great of players. But they run everybody because they know each other. He knows their spots. Okay, I know Curry can shoot from this corner over here. I know Danny Green, that's his corner, so I'm gonna hit him in that corner. That's his spot. Because you gain confidence in knowing each other. It's not the issue that they can't play. They can play. They don't really need that many pieces if they go after somebody. They don't need a big fish, but they do need to play together. They need to monitor how much they load manage Embiid and Simmons because they need to play together to get ready. Everybody else ready. So that's all my only thing I got to say.
Yeah, because I think to your point there, I think part of the equation is Ben Simmons when he's having that scoring night, like last night, for instance, right? Ben Simmons held it down in the first half. He kept the Sixers in the game. He kept them afloat. And so in that second half, you look at Embiid with minimal points, minimum attempts in the first half. They closed him out in the first half. They let Ben go, and that's the way it played out. But Joel Embiid down the stretch started getting his normal looks. He just didn't knock him down. I mean, it's as simple as that. You looked to Embiid to close that game, and he just didn't hit the shots. That's going to happen some nights. You know what I mean? And then you look at on top of it, the Raptors were hitting everything. I mean, Chris Boucher hit 5 threes in that stretch from the end of the third quarter at the beginning of the fourth. And on top of that, we went 8 minutes without scoring. So I think part of that is Doc, and I think as we get closer to the playoffs, you'll start seeing this more. But you got to stagger those 3 stars differently. Tobias needs to play a little bit more with the second unit, or Ben a little bit more with the second unit, because you got to help those guys out. And you can see it. Even the last 2 games specifically against Chicago and against Toronto, when that bench comes in, the lead goes away. I mean, we were beating Toronto by 14 last night in the first quarter. As soon as that bench comes in, they get a 4-point lead by the end of the first quarter. And then against Chicago, I think we had close to a 20-point lead against Chicago, and then they just went off and caught up when the bench comes in. So I think we got to fix the bench first of all. Guys like Korkmaz, get this man up the lineup, yo. And I know Doc said that already. He said he's going to put Joe in there, but no playoff lineup can have no playoff rotation can have a guy like Korkmaz or Mike Scott in it.
He's a freaking gun.
Yeah, stop shooting the damn ball. You're off. Off. You're not Seth Curry. Stop it. You know what I mean? But I think you guys are spot on there. So the other thing I wanted to touch on is the recent uptick in Ben Simmons' production. So is this just the All-Star game thing again, or has this man really flipped the switch on his mentality? He was talking in an interview the other day. He's really after that Utah game, he said he really enjoyed dominating that game offensively. had 42 points. You know what I mean? He really did dominate it. I know it was still an L, but that was a good stride for Ben Simmons. How do you guys feel about Ben Simmons? Is this a real mental switch, or is it just that all-star game influence once again?
It's hard to tell. It really is, because you're right. I've never really seen him score like this. He's scoring in bunches, and I don't think it's an all-star game thing, because I don't think these guys are supposed to be so selfish like that. But I can't help but think if he's motivated for one reason, and that might be the reason why. I don't think it's a bad thing either. I think it affects Tobias in a way as well, because he's not getting as many looks. And it's not the worst thing in the world. Everyone's been saying for the last two years that Tobias was made to be the tertiary option. He didn't need to be the one. He didn't need to be the 2 option for us. Yeah. We had Embiid and Ben for that reason, so he can be the tertiary option. And everyone complaining about Tobias not getting any all-star attention, which he may or may not deserve. I'd lean to that he doesn't deserve it, just because I think tertiary contributors don't need to be in the all-star game. They're good as they are. They're key role players for us. And I think Tobias is a very highly paid key role player, undeservedly so, but he's still, a role player for us.
Yeah, I guess my counterpoint to the all-star argument would be that guys like Draymond Green made the all-star team. And you know what I mean? Like, he was a product of that Warriors team. It's like, ain't no way Draymond put up the numbers to make the all-star team. You know what I mean? But no, all good points there. I think that's part of the key there is that Tobias needs to figure out how to assert himself with Ben asserting himself. Because I think Ben made a very good point right there. That Tobias, when Ben plays good. Now, to an extent, because I know against the Jazz, Tobias put up like 35 when Ben put up 42. So I don't know, you know what I mean? But I think that is one key part there is Toby finding his offense, finding a way to keep himself aggressive, when Ben is being aggressive as well. How do you feel, JD?
So I think Vinny's got kind of he's got like a really good point, but it's kind of like in a weird spot. And I don't want to take anything from his point. It's just we just said that they weren't very like sure about what they were going to do last night. And because they were unsure, the shots that Tobias could have taken, because there were shots out there. And just because Ben goes to the basket, he kicks it out a lot. Times that I really wish he would like dunk it or like try to get a foul. But I just know for a matter of fact that Tobias is not going to be affected by Ben. They just got to play with each other. They got to learn the spots. He needs to learn where to be at so Ben can see him. Because Ben's left-handed, right? So if Ben drives to his left, more than likely they're going to cut off his left. So he needs to be on the right side so he can see him. That comes with just playing with people. Like everything comes with knowledge of the game, knowing what they're doing. Because Ben is not a selfish player. He's not like if he's taking over. He's looking to he's still pass first. And I need everybody to understand it. Him being aggressive does not make him not pass first. He's definitely pass first, but him being more aggressive doesn't hurt them. I think that right now they just played the Phoenix Suns and the Toronto Raptors. Yeah, 2 teams that are very good in their respective conferences. These aren't poop butts. These aren't like these aren't like the Hawks or whoever. Like these are good teams. So we need to really look at that and look at this as a measuring stick. Like, okay, well, we just came off of a road trip. We just played 2 really difficult teams, and Phoenix needs to be praised from jump because they got Chris Paul. So we just need to throw that out there. Yeah, and these are not 2 bad losses.
And we'll talk about Phoenix a little bit later in the show when we get into the Western Conference. But I like your point there for real. But yeah, I think you're spot on. And Soko had a good point here. Maxey needs more minutes. Now that's kind of what I wanted to ask you guys. It seems like Maxey didn't play last night. I know he didn't play last night. Do you have some concerns? How are we feeling about Maxey? Because now's the time to get him experience if you do plan on, acclimating him in the playoff rotation. Like, right now it's looking like he's not part of the playoff rotation. Like he's not part of the main rotation here. So I am kind of wondering what's going on with Maxey. Maybe they're just not trying to stunt his growth by having him do too much right now. I'm not sure how they're kind of working that. One thing I will say, when he comes in the game, he does. I think what Doc wants from him is to run an offense, and I feel like he's trying to score a lot more than what Doc would prefer from his backup point guard there. I think he just wants him to run the offense and get guys initiated. But at the same time, if you're putting Maxey out there with Thibault and Dwight Howard, what you expect? Like, who else is going to score? I mean, that's how I look at that. But yeah, Maxey is like the key. It's really wild right now because Maxey is like that piece that you just don't know, right? Like if you were to, make a trade, I know the Heat's picking up on this Kyle Lowry talk. I personally think that the better that the Raptors are playing right now, the less chance Lowry is moved. You don't sell the farm if you're about to make the playoffs. So, I don't see the Raptors as desperate to move Lowry, which I think that's what they would have to be for us to make that move. But that's my point with Maxey is like, if you bring in Lowry, you're totally eliminating. You bring in any other point guard, you're eliminating Maxey's minutes and his development. But maybe that's what they want. They want to store him on the bench and allow him to gain experience that way. I'm not sure what's going on there with Maxey. How do you guys feel about Tyrese Maxey?
I've always been worried with the continuity of this team and how they, get their guys going. So that's why it's so confusing to me that we saw Maxey play so much in the early going. Now, I know there were injuries to worry about back then, and I know there was some other stuff. But why did you draft this guy so high? And it doesn't, now I don't get to watch as many, Sixers games as I can anymore because of, down here they're not always on TV. But from what I do see, I just don't see Maxey as much as I thought I would. He looked very engaged early on in the season. They were playing him, 20 to 30 minutes a game. And again, injuries played a role in that. And now they're fully healthy. Maybe they just don't need him. And like you said, I don't think he's part of the playoff rotation either. I agree with Vinny. I think they are too far along in the process to make him part of that rotation. So I think this is his development year. But I would like to see him play more because I think he is a very special talent. And I think he can run an offense from the point. I think they just need to let him see that.
Yeah.
And let him do more. Then he can show us that he can do more in the future.
How you feel about Maxey?
That's hard. That's hard to follow up, man. Everybody's hitting all the good stuff. He isn't. I don't think Maxey is ready. I think because he had and that might have been some of the concern why he fell so deep in the draft. Maxey coming out of high school and getting his years at Kentucky, like everybody kind of thought he was going to be a high draft pick. He had been, but I think maybe towards the end of those seasons, they kind of started to see when the pressure kind of constricts on him and they know what he's going to do. He's very easy to kind of track. And I think the other teams are watching film on him. They have film on him. Beginning of the year, they had no film on dude. So he's getting in, he's having big games, 17, 18 points off the bench. And it's looking like he's going to have a very productive season as a rookie.
Right.
But as everybody's starting to watch film, they're starting to realize, okay, when he goes left, about 2 dribbles after he crosses over to his right again. Like now he's playing against smart defenders, like Chris Paul, like all these guys are smart defenders. Lowry's what's the little guy's name? From the Toronto Raptors. Van Vliet. Yeah, these guys they're really, really tough defenders, even though they're small. Now, Maxey gives you a little height, but I want to humor you guys for a minute. Let's just say that just for sake of argument, that maybe Doc is just trying to see what he's got. Yeah. Like Doc has been doing this for a very long time. Yeah. And if you remember back in the day, he had Eddie House. And Eddie House was a serviceable replacement for Rondo, and he could hit threes. Maybe, just maybe, he's just trying to keep, actually, like he said, engaged. So when he does need him later on and he can kind of get his bearings because he hasn't played that many games because he came out of college and they're not used to playing back-to-backs like that. Maybe he has hit that rookie wall. Maybe he needs to calm down on his playing time and continue to develop. But maybe this is Doc's way of developing him, like tapering his minutes, but still letting him play some.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And Matt McGinty here brings up a good point as well. Tyrese probably would be one of those two-way players. Same with Isaiah Joe. I mean, these guys wouldn't be fully on the roster. You know what I mean? They would be getting that experience in the G League. And, it sucks that they don't get that benefit because you see a guy like Paul Reed who's in the G League dominating right now.
He's putting up buckets.
Yeah. I mean, this dude, that's
like 30 a game.
That's a great prospect right there. Stretch 4 big man. And, you would probably see the same things. I just want to take some time to say what's up to some guys. Protagonist TV, thanks for checking us out. Philly the podcast, thanks for coming through to show love. I appreciate that. We got Al here. We need a veteran and can run the offense and get the ball to players in their spots. Yeah, I think that's if you can grab a guy like George Hill or a guy like Patty Mills, like, yeah, sure, you're not giving up much to get those guys. But the sooner the better, because like we've been harping on this entire episode so far, got to get these guys acclimated, got to get them in the system. We got to get them in our system, make sure they're comfortable. So I think that's the key there. Another stretch big, I think, would be another key component. Now, something that was interesting that was brought up in a podcast I was on earlier today, the Daily Dose with Dylan Davis, and I was on there with my man Matt McGinty as well. They brought up a good point. Do you guys see Dwight Howard as a rotational piece in the playoffs, like for real?
I mean, go ahead. You can take it.
No, you're up.
All right. I mean, I think you can because the Lakers used him last year.
Yeah.
And if he didn't have a serviceable role with the Lakers last year, and he didn't play some quality minutes especially to give AD a break sometimes, and they had JaVale McGee as well, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
So they had multiple bigs. Like I know that the NBA is different. I get it. I know the NBA has changed since Shaq and them played and all them, and but the same thing. You still need rebounding. And you still need somebody to protect the rim. And we don't know how it's going to look when people are starting to go at Embiid and making him play defense at the rim. If he gets in foul trouble, what does that look like for us? Does it look like we have to scramble and play small ball and put Ben Simmons at 5?
Right.
And like, you don't want that. You never want your best player that's a defensive player, which is Ben Simmons, playing center. You just don't, because he can get in foul trouble.
Yeah.
So now you'll be down 2. So you have to use Dwight. We got to keep him engaged. He's a little older. He should be wise. And he should be able to. He can still protect the rim pretty well. He can still block shots. His offensive game isn't that great, but at the end of the day, you got to give up some things. You can't have it all. So
I guess let me rephrase it a little bit. So against a team that plays small ball like Boston or like Toronto, does he kind of get X out? Because you saw against Toronto last night, he just couldn't get out there on Chris Boucher. That man was lighting him up, and he could not get to the perimeter to defend him. So those are the situations, against a Boston where they play small ball as well. But you make a good point. You don't want to put Ben in a situation where he's going to get in foul trouble on top of Embiid getting in foul trouble. So you can't afford that. Like, I agree to a sense. How do you feel, Sam?
I think he kind of has to, but I think his value is going to come more, as knowing how this works. He's been around. I think he's the most senior member of this team, right?
Yeah,
I think he's the oldest guy on this team at this point. So
Green, yeah,
he's the elder statesman.
So.
Yeah,
but I think that's where his value comes, is knowing how this works, knowing how to manage as the season goes on and as it gets deeper. And I think he can come in, and he's going to have to play because, like you guys said, we cannot have Embiid getting in foul trouble. We cannot have Ben getting in foul trouble behind him. So even though Dwight, you got to come in and let Dwight get in that foul trouble if he needs to be.
Yeah.
And his game is nowhere near it is, and that's upsetting. But as long as you're not letting him go out there and shoot threes, I think he should be fine.
Yeah. I think you run into trouble when Dwight gets over that 20-minute mark. That's when you start seeing the annoying turnover, dumb fouls.
That 12 to 18 minute mark, I think, is perfect for Dwight.
Exactly.
He needs to be on the high end to protect us from getting in foul trouble. So be it. You make it work and just make sure there's enough guys out there to support him, so that they can make that offense run. Because we really do get into a lot of trouble when our second squad is out there. That's That's always been a big problem for us. Is once the starting five goes off, you get a lot of trouble because the bench sucks.
Yeah, exactly. I think as long as what bothers me with Dwight, and it's literally the only thing, because I don't mind the dumb fouls. I don't mind the techs even. I think he brings like a toughness to the team, the confidence that he brings, the way he is on the sidelines. I don't mind that shit. But what bothers me is when the offense is trying to be run through him and you start, you see Matisse like trying to get him to post up down. Like, nah, Matisse, that ain't the move. Like, there ain't no, like, if your offensive possession ends in a Dwight Howard post up, you have failed on that offensive possession, right? He's a guy that hits the boards. He's just there for offensive rebound, and that's it. Tip ins. That's it. But when the ball starts getting passed to him too many times, I think that's when he gets confused as well. And I think that's when he starts playing bad. You know what I mean?
He's like, am I in Atlanta? What's going on? Like, what's going on?
Right. Soko's got a good question here. Do you think trading for a guy like LaVine puts the Sixers over the hump, or would you rather just trust the current roster? I think for LaVine, at the beginning of the season, LaVine was semi-realistic trade target. I think the way he has played this season,
there's no way
realistic. You're going to give up almost a package that you would give up for Beal, right? Like he's putting up those numbers right now. Like it's crazy how much he's increased his stock. Now, don't get me wrong, LaVine is a dog, man. Like I would do things to get LaVine on the squad, but not at this point in the season and not for the amount that we would have to give up, because I'm looking at it like every trade package, even a Lowry package, is probably going to require like a Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle. That's two perimeter defenders that we can't afford to give up. Simply put, we can't afford to have two good perimeter defenders. Danny Green's questionable, but in spots he can play really good defense. But getting rid of him and a guy like Thybulle, that we would start looking more like Brooklyn, right? The things that we criticize Brooklyn for, depth and defense, is the way we would start looking if we make a trade like that. So I don't think that does us any favors this year.
I also think you have the continuity issue there. I think the best thing for this team is continuity with the same guys. We've said this at least 2 or 3 times on this show alone. We've talked all about adding all these guys through the whole season. All 3 of us have on this show, but we need our guys to play with each other. We don't need them to add another piece in late in the season. And it's not going to mesh because our guys need to learn to trust each other. And that will be the best part about this team. I think that'll make this team run more, better than, with a Beal or a LaVine. Even though it'll be a great offensive option and would put us over the top in that regard, it'll cost us defensively.
Yeah. Because I think you look at a guy like LaVine who's averaging 28 a game, just imagine how that's going to mess with game flow. Right. Already trying to get acclimated. So I think, that would throw us off so much, halfway through the season. That's such a big move. How do you feel, JD?
Where does he fit? The question is, where does he fit? Like, you could, it's kind of like, I'll put it like, it's like a small vehicle. All right. You put all these people in there, eventually got to get out. Somebody's going to need to get used to the bathroom. Somebody's going to need to do something. And eventually you can't do it. Like, where does he fit? You put, okay, so Zach LaVine's what, 6'9"? Is he 6'9", 6'10"?
6, yeah, he's in that 6'7" to 6. I don't know. Is he?
I thought he was taller than that. But anyway, where do you put him? Ben Simmons is about 7 feet tall. You got Tobias Harris is about the same size, about 6'9", 6'10"-ish. Joel Embiid is 7 feet tall. Curry is probably 6'2", 6'3", and then just serviceable, Danny Green. Like, so where does he fit? He's not a point guard.
Yeah,
he's a 2 guard.
I think in order for him to fit, you would have to be giving up either Tobias or Ben Simmons. Like, you know what I mean? 1, to even make the trade, you'd probably have to get rid of one of those guys, but 2, just to make it fit, you would have to get rid of one of those guys, and it's still, it's just too many pieces moving around this far in the season for me. So we got another question here. So you think a guy like Darius Garland underperforming in Cleveland is a realistic option? I don't know. How do you guys feel about Darius Garland? I don't know much.
I don't know
him
much about
when
him.
he's
I don't
coming out
know.
of the draft.
I know very little, but I thought he was still on I thought they just draft him last year. I don't think they would give up on him that quickly, would they?
Scoring guard. I don't know how much it would take. He even mentioned like a package of Drummond and Darius Garland. I mean, Drummond's crazy. That'd be crazy, but I just don't know if you have enough room for Drummond.
Where does Drummond go though? Does he play center? And then what happens to Embiid?
Yeah, Drummond would have to come off the bench if that was the case.
Think about your spacing. Like, I mean, a lot of people are saying a lot of names, but Drummond's not a bench player. He's not going to be happy here coming off the bench. You can't put him on the court at the same time. He's just not going to work. Like, basketball just doesn't work that way. Like, you just can't pile a bunch of big dudes in the way because then Ben Simmons can't get to the basket if it's too many bigs because that's clogged up. And then let's say we run into a small ball situation like you guys were talking about. Who is he going to check? If Embiid is going to nobody. So
we're playing in that series, literally.
No, we would have expensive, what do they call them? Very expensive desk ornaments. Like they will just be there. Like,
paperweights.
Very expensive paperweights. Yeah.
I think as far as a shooter, Mr. Seaway got a question here. I think as far as a shooter, you're just looking for like some, bottom of the rotation guys at this point, or to an extent, a point guard that can run the second unit. A veteran point guard. I know Al just said George Hill just got surgery or something, so I guess he's off the table. But a guy like DeLon Wright, Patty Mills, those, just somebody who can provide a spark and can run the offense correctly. Soko said they are looking to move on from Garland. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad prospect. Vinny doesn't think he would get playing time. Garland is nice. I know coming out of college, he was nice. He can score the ball. He can shoot. So, I mean, that's something the Sixers lack. I don't know. I think they would go more of the veteran route. I think they would go the veteran route in that case. Drummond doesn't fit under the cap. He's on a 1-year deal. So, I mean, there's options. Wayne Ellington or Patty Mills. Yeah, I think those are the type of options that we're looking at. Drummond's name's probably a little too big, probably a little too much that we would have to give up in just the fit in general. If we were going to go the backup center route, then I would probably go like Boogie Cousins, right?
Yeah, Cousins would make sense.
Even if a guy like Blake, now I don't think they would ever go that route just because Blake, I don't think he's going to come off the bench. I don't think he's going to agree to anything like that. But guys like that who can kind of facilitate as well, or, like Boogie who can shoot, I think those type of guys could fit a little bit better. But I don't see any huge moves coming. Just minor. Mentioned Taurean Prince. I do like him. That's a 3-and-D name that would fit in nice. What about Cousins off the bench? Yeah, to back up Embiid, they get along really well. If Cousins, I think we would be interested. I think if Cousins is willing to take a low deal, and he's got to be willing to accept his role like Dwight Howard. You know what I mean? Accept that bench role. You're not going to get major minutes every night. Maybe Cousins will be down for that.
So I think he would be fine for that.
I would too. I think he would be fine for it. But how many minutes has he played on any of these teams that he's been on in the last couple of years? Like he hasn't played very many.
Yeah, that's correct.
Serviceable minutes. Like you go pick him up and then he's gonna be hurt. Like he's been hurt. Like another very expensive paperweight. Like I don't know. Like I know we don't want to. I know we want to try to continuously get better, but I think really getting better means they play together. Like I don't think it means we gotta go and buy anybody or something. I know I've been telling Al, I've been telling Andre, I've been telling everybody. Like listen. It does not mean that this team cannot be great as constructed. I think this is a very well-constructed team. And that's a little bit to Maury and Doc and everybody putting their input in. But this team is actually pretty decent. We just have to get them to click on all cylinders. They've only played, 2-3 games with all the actual starters healthy and playing in the same rotation. That's not enough to be ready for a playoff push. We have to do, after the All-Star break, they gotta get in with each other and really play. And they got to work on that perimeter defense. That shit sucks.
Yeah, straight up. And the way they can counteract that is just like last night, like we talked about. Seth, shoot the three. Don't pump fake and drive for a mid-range. That's the most worthless shot in the NBA is the mid-range jump shot, literally. Aside from Embiid, I won't say that. Embiid dominates that mid-range. But, if you're at the three-point line, you have an open shot, and then you pass that up for a mid-range, that's a bad shot. That's a bad shot in my opinion. I think you take the three, you go off that Rockets philosophy, get them threes up, and they're going to fall. That's why we're losing right now. That's why we lost to the Jazz. That's why we lost to the Raptors last night. You're trading twos for threes. So you can almost, I hate to say it this way, but you can almost defend the three better if you just shoot more threes, right? If you're just not getting beat that bad by three-pointers, then it won't look as bad. But right now we're one of the worst teams in getting three-pointers up and one of the worst teams at defending the three. So those two things together are very bad, right? But we'll move on from the Sixers. I appreciate all the engagement on that. That was a nice little Sixers segment. I need a little button, that I can hit and be like Sixers talk, in the middle of the episode. Let everybody know. Sixers fan, you can pop out right now. But we're gonna move on to the Raptors, man. The Raptors have won 4 in a row, including 2 against the Bucks, 1 against the Sixers. They are 16-0 without Kyle Lowry this year. That's why all their wins have come without Kyle Lowry, based on that number. I saw that on Stat News today. But are the Raptors working themselves? I know you mentioned it earlier, JD. Are the Raptors working themselves back into that contender talk on the Eastern Conference side? I mean, I already thought the Raptors were fundamentally sound. They got great coaching. It was only a matter of time before they really turned it on. But how are you guys feeling about the Raptors right now?
Oh, you gonna give it to me? Gosh, I don't know. I have a hard problem. The Raptors also perplex me because they're doing all this without Lowry, and I've always thought that the Raptors they take on Kyle Lowry's demeanor. He's gritty, he's tough, he can get to a bucket at any moment. Siakam plays well off of Lowry, but now he's playing well off Van Vliet, and he's creating his own shots, and he's a problem. I thought Siakam was just a one-hit wonder type thing. We were going to see him kind of fade away, but Siakam's becoming more, not even just more aggressive. He's becoming kind of like a Novocaine. He's slow acting, but he just keeps punching you and keeps punching you. Yeah. And then you look at it, and he's got 30 points, and I'm like, what did he do other than shoot layups? But then he hit a couple threes. I don't know. They're coached very well. They've been there before, and they look like they've been there before.
Yeah.
It's they never really had a letdown from Kawhi leaving. It's I was waiting on them to have that slow letdown. They didn't have it. It was maybe it wasn't Kawhi. Maybe it was the Toronto Raptors were just really good. Maybe that was what it was. I mean, outside of the 5 bounce shot that he made on us, Kawhi didn't really play that much of a role in that game. It was most Siakam. Siakam killed us. I don't know what it is about him and Joel Embiid, but it's every time he plays his African homie, he be trying to go at him. He tries to kill us. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'm perplexed, but I do believe that they are a definite contender in the East for sure. And Nick Nurse probably should be up for Coach of the Year again because he's literally that good.
I want to say that I don't think the Raptors are a contender as such as you label contender being one of the top 3 teams in the East. I still think that's us, the Nets, and the Celtics. I think the Raptors were a championship level team with Kawhi. I think without him, they're a solid contender. They're a team that'll go for the 6th spot ever. They're going for the 5 or the 6 every year. They're tough out in the playoffs, but they won't really get further than the 2nd round.
Yeah,
I think that.
Go ahead. My bad.
I just think that the Raptors play, like you said, a fundamentally sound game that doesn't have many holes, but they're still missing the guy that'll get them over the hump. That's Lowry to get them into the 4th or 3rd conversation, and it's Kawhi that's missing to get them to a championship. So without those guys, they're a good team. They're not a great team, but they're consistent. They're consistent, and I guess that can lead you further than a lot of people think if you get lucky and you get a couple shots to bounce your way.
Yeah, because the way I look at it is, what if the Raptors like ran into the Nets in the playoffs? Like, how would that play out?
I think they get smoked.
You think they get smoked?
Yeah. I think that series is over in 5 games.
They would have a game plan, man. I don't know, but you could be right. I mean, it's hard to think because
I just think the Nets overpower anyone else except for us in that conference right now.
I don't trust Nash. I don't trust Steve Nash. I'm just going to be honest. My real problem with this whole situation with the Nets is I don't trust their coach. Yeah. Not because I don't think that Steve Nash knows the game. I just think that Steve Nash doesn't know the moves to make against a chess match against like a Doc Rivers, against a Nick Nurse, against a what's the dude from the Celtics? I can't think of his name. The young dude,
Brad
Stevens. Like these dudes are juggernauts in their profession. Yeah. Steve Nash just came out of sitting on a beach somewhere and just decided he wanted to coach. Like, no, I mean, and then we've already seen there be dysfunction with the Nets. I just don't know if it'll hold up long enough to get through the playoffs. Like, Kyrie just decided one day I'm not going to be there for 2 weeks. Like, I'm just like, hey, man, he's Dennis Rodman. Like,
that's funny.
Dude, I mean, let's break it down. He's Dennis Rodman of the 96, 97 Bulls. Like, I mean, 95, 96 Bulls. Like, he goes off for a little while, he comes back. Harden is like a Pippen. He's going to be there. He's all faithful. And then we'll just give KD like the Jordan role. But the same thing, you still got to worry about Dennis Rodman. Is Dennis Rodman going to do his job? In this case, Dennis Rodman can't play defense. And Harden doesn't play that great of defense either. So we're talking about something that's going to come up in later days. And Steve Nash is not a defensive guru. So who's going to make them play defense?
They might not need to. I'm with Vinny here. It might not matter. They literally had 3 of the best players. They had 3 top 10 players in the entire league every single game. It might not matter. It might not matter what deficiencies they have on defense because there's a lot. But it might not matter when they're scoring 125, 130 a game because most nights that'll win.
But if you're giving up that many, then that's not a win.
All they have to do is outscore them by a point.
True. I will give you that.
All they have to do is outscore them by a point. They give up 133. You score 134. You win.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're talking about is that the Eastern Conference is starting to look very matchup based, right? So like, if the Sixers run into the Raptors in the playoffs, right, that might give us some issues, right? If the Nets run into whoever, what maybe it's Milwaukee that's their kryptonite, whatever the case may be, you know what I mean?
Celtics.
Maybe the Celtics. Yeah, the Celtics seem like they match up very well with the Nets there. The key against the Nets, I would say, is that even though they have 3 of the top 5 players in every series that they would play, they probably only have 3 of the top 10 as well. You know what I mean? Like as much as that is part of the equation, then against the Sixers, who outside of what is Joe Harris, I guess you could say he's better than Shake Milton, right? I mean, he's a better shooter. He more fits into his role, maybe better. But outside of that lineup, like Landry Shamet, Jeff Green, DeAndre Jordan is some hot trash. Like I'm becoming more sold on the Nets, but I still think when you get to playoff basketball and shit gets gritty, you got to match that grittiness, that toughness. And, I think the tougher team prevails. I think you saw that last night with the Raptors. They just played us tougher. Like they pushed Embiid out of the paint. They made their presence felt. So, that's where I'll end that. We mentioned the Celtics. I wanted to kind of just touch on them briefly. The Celtics blew this 24-point lead against the young, struggling Pelicans. And we'll talk about them briefly as well a little bit. But what's up with the Celtics? They're just not looking the same. Now, obviously, this is a weird season. Tatum talked about how the COVID's been affecting him. Like I said earlier, they don't have Marcus Smart right now, which is a key piece. But they're looking like one of those teams that can get bullied, similar to the Nets. Get bullied in the paint. You saw Zion control that game yesterday. Brought them right back into the game. How do y'all feel about the Celtics? Anything to worry about? Do you think it's just early same thing as the Sixers right now, kind of struggling a little bit?
I always personally hope the Celtics struggle. Maybe that's just me. It brings me joy to see them struggle. Mostly because my best friend is a Celtics fan, and me being a Sixers fan, we jaw over it all the time. But I bet on the Celtics a couple games this season, so I've watched a few Celtics games, and they do struggle without Marcus Smart. He's probably their best defensive player, just because he's the most, like you said, the most grittiest player on that team, exactly. And he really does bring a special brand of defense to his game. So I think they are a team that plays up to the moment. So I think in the playoffs they're a tough out, as they always are. It always seems like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum find something special in the playoffs. Yeah. And for some reason, you just can't stop Marcus Smart. I don't know what it is. I think it's a little different without Gordon Hayward this season. That's one of their chalk 4 guys gone. And it remains to be seen how Kemba Walker continues to fit into things. So I think they're a little bit weaker this year. I think it's a prime time to take aim at them to try and beat them out. But I think they've fallen outside of the top 3 at this point. I think it's probably us, the Nets, and the Bucks. But
he's been on a tear lately. I don't know if y'all saw the tweet earlier, but his last 7 games are ridiculous. They're taking L's though. So
who you say?
Giannis. He's been having crazy games lately, but that was regular season.
Listen, all right, here we go. I'm about to break it down. You guys ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right. Tatum and Brown are a problem. Period. Yeah. They just are. Tatum is a problem because no moment is too big for him. He's been that way since he was at Duke. The moment just isn't too big for him.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. The number two problem is Jaylen Brown creates a really weird matchup problem for people. He just does. His game is kind of unorthodox as well. So it's kind of like really, it's hard watching him because you don't know what he's going to do. But if he gets hot, he just gets hot. When they get Smart back, because Kemba isn't really contributing as much as you would think for him to be part of the big 3.
Well, he was injured, so I think he's working his way back.
I think that is a part of it too. But when I see him play, I want to say that he's almost kind of apprehensive. He almost kind of looks like Curry in kind of a sense, he's very apprehensive to take shots that you would normally see him make. Yeah. So I don't know if it is him kind of working his way back, or if it's something more that we're not worried about, or more he's thinking more if I draw a lot of attention to myself on offense, maybe they'll go after me on defense. So I'm thinking that could be a problem too. That's just my thought. I don't know what just happened behind me, but something just went down. And it's kind of I'm kind of worried about this one thing with the Celtics. The Celtics have Thompson, and Thompson was a new pickup. But the way that I watched Zion bully this 7-foot dude last night was ridiculous. Zion's maybe 6'6", and he just straight bodied him. And I know that JoJo is going to do him dirty, man. I just got a feeling that he's just going to have his way with him in the playoffs. And I think that is a problem. They can score with anybody. So like we said about the Nets, they can score with the Nets. I think they really can. I think on a good night when Kemba's back healthy, I think they can score with the Nets. So that 120 or that 130 mark that we're looking at might not look so good when you got another dog facing KD and Tatum. He got the same dude. So I don't know. I don't like the Celtics either. I don't want them to be good because I just have a deep hatred for them. But I fear that they may be.
Hey man, the Celtics is another team that I just don't want to see in the playoffs. Obviously, we might run into them, but just not somebody I would want to run into. First, second round of the playoffs. Just one of those things. It's going to be a tough ass series. But I think to your point there, JD, and even your point too, Sam. Kemba killed us in the playoffs last year, and I know we didn't have Ben Simmons. But Kemba was probably the difference, that makes that a sweep. You know what I mean? They swept us. But Kemba was killing Matisse Thybulle in that series. You know what I mean? And you're just not seeing that same type of Kemba this year, which is, we'll wait to see. We got to watch this season play out. I think we can all agree here that this is one of the weirdest seasons ever. in the NBA. You look at that Eastern Conference, it's all like jammed in like within 4 games of everybody. You know what I mean? Like you got the Heat out the playoffs. They're like 13-17, right? It's really weird. But yeah, I just think, this season, like I said, this is really odd. Like you look at the Sixers, I saw an interesting stat again earlier today. They have a 1-game worse record than what they had at this point last season. And, we're number 1 in the East right now, and we're so excited about the Sixers team, but they're playing worse than the team last. You know what I mean? So, like, it's a weird season all around. We touched on the Pelicans a little bit, and this doesn't have to be some long, drawn-out conversation. I wanted to get you guys' opinion here because it's something I noticed yesterday while watching the Pelicans play. And, Zion gets all the hype. Rightfully so. This man's a powerhouse. And I'm a Duke guy. I love Zion. I love Zion to death. Like, don't get me twisted. Like, like the way ESPN puts Zion on every highlight, that's me. Like, that's how I feel too. I would do it too. Like, anything with Zion, I feel like is good for the NBA. Like, his brand is good for the NBA. But something I wanted to talk about is, I watched Brandon Ingram down the stretch yesterday, and he's the guy hitting the big shots. When it's Dame time, right? Game time, BI takes the shots. And that's kind of what I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on. Who is the actual best player on this team, right? Zion is definitely the most hyped, but, I think that Brandon Ingram he might be the guy there, where Zion brings the energy. Brandon Ingram brings that assassin's mentality, that dead eye. How do you guys feel about that?
You want me to take it or you got it?
Yeah, go ahead, JB.
You got it.
All right. So there's a lot to unpack. So in that game, just to kind of throw this out as like a little bit, just throw it out there. So Duke had 3 of the top players in that game. Just so we know, I just want y'all to know that because I'm a Duke fan and I just want you to know that I feel that way. Yeah. But outside of that, man, the players that are supposed to be on the Pelicans, we're not talking about this either. Lonzo Ball has been shooting the ball considerably better.
Yeah.
He hit at one point, he was 100% from the 3-point line. He hit 4 for 4. So let's just be real. Let's just say that they're taking their lumps right now, but they look like a really scary team in maybe about 2 or 3 years. Like really, really scary. Like Ingram is starting to come into his own. Not only is he coming into his own, he's getting that kind of that. We say this all the time, but he's getting that Mamba mentality. He wants the ball at the end of the game. He takes a lot of pressure off Zion to make that big shot because Zion isn't really a great shooter. He can close, but he's got to take it to the basket. And that's kind of his thing. But if they can add Zoe to that list where when Ingram drives the ball really hard or Zion drives the ball really hard and they find Zoe out on the perimeter and he can knock down that 3-point shot, man, that makes them a whole lot scarier, dude. And I'm glad that we don't have to watch them grow and play them all season because they're going to be good. I'm telling you, this is my prediction. JD Oracle prediction right here, guys. 2 to 3 years, the Pelicans will be pressing for the Western Conference, and they're going to be right in the thick of things. We're laughing at them now. They're like, always almost out. But 2 or 3 years, add another piece or two. They're going to be good.
Yeah. And I did want to just point out yesterday's game, Villanova native Josh Hart. That man plays hard. I love me some Josh Hart, yo.
17, baby. 17.
Yeah, exactly. That man is a dog. And he was guarding Tatum. Now, mind you, Tatum is cold-blooded. He was cooking him the whole game. Don't get it twisted. But this man was guarding Tatum as good as you can guard him. Like he's got that Philly toughness in him. But go ahead, Sam. Did you want to touch on that?
I mean, I'm a Zion guy. I've always thought Zion has, the highest ceiling in the NBA on a certain level. I think his game is still developing. He's already shown himself to be one of the best interior players in the NBA with just how big he is.
Yeah.
I think Brandon Ingram is starting to kind of hit a ceiling as to how his development. He's been in the league what now? 4 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think Zion's got a ways to go. I think he's going to surpass him in the next couple of years. I think Zion's going to live up to everything we thought he was going to be. I really can't wait to see it. I kind of agree with JD. In a couple of years, we may see the Pelicans press. Once LeBron is gone, he transitions out. Kawhi kind of starts to transition out. We start to see the Jazz and the Pelicans and the Mavericks, and those will be your class of the Western Conference in a couple of years. Once those teams start to mature and we see their stars develop. So I think it'll be good. I think it'll be good.
The crazy thing about Zion is when they let that man bring the ball up the court and his big ass handling the ball and shifting the deep. Like once he gets you off balance, because he's quick too on top of it. So once he gets you off balance, he's gonna knock you on your ass and then he's gonna finish with some crazy layup or dunk. Like his game is embarrassing for his defender. Like, he embarrasses you. He demoralizes you because not only is he stronger, more powerful, bigger, he's also going to play harder than you. And that's what makes Zion crazy. But I just remember seeing him yesterday. He broke down his man, bringing the ball up the court and just shifted it like a no-look pass out to the corner. Like he's on some Ben Simmons dishing shit. You know what I mean? Zion is going to be a problem. I agree with both of you. I think right now Brandon Ingram is probably the more well-developed, more skilled player, but Zion is going to overtake him. I mean,
he got the bigger ceiling by far.
So I got to throw this out there, and I've been thinking about this for a little while. So aren't the Pelicans taking the normal progression of a team that was really shitty and now is becoming decent? I think this is the normal progression. I think we've been wanting to see this. I haven't seen anybody except for the Sixers be really shitty and then get decently good. Now they're the Sixers. I mean, kind of in the sense they trusted the process. They got some acquisitions with Brandon Ingram. Then they got the big draft pick with Zion. They added Zoe, and a lot of people thought Zoe was a bust.
Right.
And to me personally, he wasn't a bust because at UCLA he only played one season, and then in the clutch they got smoked. So in the tournament, so we haven't really seen him get to progress. But the dude is a defender. He can play defense, and as a guard and as a bigger guard, he's 6'5", 6'6". As a bigger guard to be able to defend on the perimeter. And he's playing a lot of people's best player. I don't know if y'all been checking that either, but he's been playing a lot of the best player, kind of like a Ben Simmons type deal where we get mad at Ben Simmons about not scoring, but he's playing the best player on the team. Why the hell do we do that?
Who did he scrap yesterday? Was it Kemba Walker?
He played Kemba, but Kemba had to come check him. Yeah. He had to come check him, and he had 16. Yeah. Between Josh Hart and Ball, the two players that Kemba had to check, they had about 33 points between the two of them. So I mean, they're not a bad team, man. We just need to just give them some time to mature, but they're gonna be a problem. Now they got a good coach too.
Yeah. I want to say one more. I want to say one more thing real quick too. The Pelicans did what the Sixers did. For everyone that said, we took the long route. We took the 6 to 8 year road by tanking 3.5 years, and then we've been developing. The Pelicans streamlined it. The whole return they got from the Anthony Davis trade. They took that and reinvested that right away. They had one to 2 seasons of losing, and then they invested everything into that core, and they really got everything going. I think they're gonna be a 4 or 5 year process compared to our 8 year process. So I think that ultimately works out for them. I think it's better that they didn't have the stigma that we had as well. I think the stigma that the league had of the Sixers in general, was generally not good for morale. It can't be good that everyone is basically encouraging you to lose games.
I know.
This is a good conversation. That's kind of why I brought up that Pelicans game, from yesterday, because I know they're young, and I thought they hit, kind of I won't say a milestone, but kind of got over a hump yesterday. Like the main thing coming in was their lack of defense. And they were able to come back from a 24-point deficit. JD mentioned the coach, Stan Van Gundy. That's a guy that's going to have these young boys right. And that I thought that was sort of a hump to watch them get over yesterday, beating a well-coached Celtics team that they probably shouldn't have ended up winning that game yesterday, but they did. And you got to see a little bit of growth from Zion, all those guys playing together, Josh Hart. They made all the right plays. So yeah, I think Pelicans, I think I was kind of on the side where I was kind of rushing them too much, expecting too much too soon. And I was kind of almost looking at them like the Timberwolves with like Cat. The Timberwolves just can't seem to do anything right. Like I don't
except
know.
for dunk on people.
Yeah, that's it. Like that's it. But like the Timberwolves are how many years has Cat been in the league now? And they get they try to pair five. Yeah, I mean, and they try to pair him with everybody under the sun, and nothing works out. Like Andrew Wiggins didn't work, D'Angelo Russell didn't work, Jimmy Butler didn't work. Like what works? I don't get it at that point.
Well, hold on, we're being a little trivial on Cat. So what I do is like Cat's had a rough 2 years. Let's just be real. Like,
oh yeah.
Cat like lost his mom from COVID. Like, he really wasn't sure about his plan, where he was going to do our plan. Cat's had a rough couple years. Do I still think Cat is a problem on his team? Yes, I think he's still a good player. I think he can still contribute. I think he is still something you can build around. They're young. So the young kid from Georgia, like the guy that just straight obliterated that dude in like real time. Yeah. And I think, when he was drafted last year, I thought to myself, I said, he's super lazy, but super athletic. And I still stand by that, but he's got some good bones. He's like a house. Like this house was just built. It's got really, really nice, but they didn't finish any of the furnishings inside. They just left that shit bare as hell. Like you just got a couple studs, but you got to make it your own. They got to get him to where he's got a great work ethic. If they can add a great work ethic with that athleticism that dude's got, we might be looking at Vince Carter 2.0, man, for real. Like that dude's got some retarded bunnies. Like, man, he dunked on that dude so hard. Like, it's like he was mad. It's like I don't know what was happening. Like I didn't know what to do. I wanted to not watch it. It was like a bad car accident. Like I don't know, man. He killed that dude's career. That dude's never gonna play again.
Yeah, that shit was brutal, man. To be completely honest with you, but yeah, I agree. I guess I should have phrased that differently. I didn't mean it as in it's Cat's fault. Like it's not Cat's fault. All he's doing out there is putting up 20 and 15. You know what I mean? Like that's all he's doing. But like
he's doing his thing.
He's going through like that Kevin Love stage, right? With the Timberwolves, where you're just putting up double every year and you just are not getting anywhere. So yeah, what I was trying to say is that I just don't view the Pelicans like that anymore. Their window is still way open. You know what I mean? They're in the second year of Zion, and he's really just now probably played like a full season in the NBA total. So like it's crazy. But one last thing I wanted to touch on before I get your top 5 players, Sam. Got to get everybody on the show. I got Jamar's last week. The one thing I wanted to touch on, I was going to talk some Clippers, but talking to you guys before the show, I figured it's better to do it this way. Who do you guys feel is that number 2 team out in the West right now? Because the Clippers are going kind of untalked about. Jazz are receiving all the hype. In my mind, the Lakers and when AD's there, they're the number 1 team. Like they're the favorites. So who is that number 2 team right now? Is it the Clippers? JD mentioned the Suns earlier. Is it the Utah Jazz that are on fire right now? Who do you guys think?
I love the way the Jazz are playing. I can't see any fault with it. I know it's chalk and I know it's boring. And as much as I would like to say the Suns, and as much as I feel like I should say the Clippers, I just can't find any fault with the Jazz, who are 20-2 in their last 22 games. Regardless of the run, I know the Heat did the same thing like 6 years ago, and I can't remember if they won the championship that year, but regardless, a 20 game win streak does not a championship make. But regardless, I think the number 2 team right now is probably the Jazz, just based on how smooth they're playing, how good they are. I think at the end of the season, the Jazz are probably one of the younger teams. They may not hold up, I think it's a better bet that we see the Lakers and the Clippers still there when the dust settles. But I think the Jazz are exciting. I think they're very good, and right now they are the number 2 team.
How about you, JD? How you feeling?
He keeps doing this. Like every time I go behind him, like he says this like profound shit, and then it's like I gotta go after him. All right.
Hey, Sam's got it, man.
He's got the juice, man. He's got the juice. So
Thank you.
I'm gonna say it doesn't look like this right now. So let me preface this by saying it does not look like this right now because they are ranked 4th. But the last time I was on Half Court Heat, they were ranked 6th. So let me preface this by saying this. My JD Oracle, prediction was that we'd be looking at the end of the season towards All-Star break, towards the post All-Star break, going to the end of the season. Phoenix will be in that top 3 spot. And the reason that I say that is because right now they're only 5 games back and they're starting to come alive. I've been watching them. I told you guys this. I've been watching a lot of Phoenix. I've been watching how they're maturing, and they're maturing. They're getting to the point where, like, Chris Paul is now talking to Ayton directly, and he's telling him where to be. Miles Bridges is going to spots, and he's where he's supposed to be. And it's just like every time you put Chris Paul on one of these damn teams, OKC had like the damn janitor crew last year, and they didn't run. Like this year, they got Booker is a problem. Like he might be the next coming of Kobe, and I'm not even saying that like to be funny. Like I mean that. Like that dude is an assassin. And he is not even scoring like he was last year because he don't need to. Bridges is a dog. Ayton is a rim protector, and he's getting better. Like he's getting so much better every game I watch him. And man, listen, and they got a little guy from North Carolina that I don't want to say his name, but Cam Johnson is a problem too.
Ooh, he's lights out, man.
He's good. He's great.
He stretches the defense. They brings everybody out to him, and then they just pound it to Ayton sometimes. Chris Paul found dude like 3 plays back to back because they were so worried about Booker jaying them that they started just like extending the game out. Like, no, listen, I'm telling you right now, at the end of the game, at the end of the day, when they start this playoff crap and everybody starts saying, oh, well, the Lakers are going to be there because they got LeBron, period. I don't remember the Suns are fake. And I get it. You may feel that way. I really do. I get it. But what team that's Chris Paul been on that they haven't been a contender at the end of the season? When everything gets going and cooking, Chris Paul is literally one bad injury away from knocking out the Warriors. Like that ankle that year, like we forget about that. But that happened with James Harden. Like if his ankle doesn't go bad, they beat the Warriors, I believe.
I think, and I think you got to really look at Devin Booker and what that man could do. I mean, look at how the Suns beat the Sixers. I know this is regular season, whatever the case may be. But in that fourth quarter, if it's a close game, Devin Booker can end that shit in 2-3 shots. He's ending that game. Like he pulled up on Ben Simmons. And Ben Simmons was catching heat for guarding Devin Booker. You can't guard, just like Steph, you can't guard a guy full court. This man pulled up from the logo in crunch time. He's on Dame Lillard shit, like with a better team, right? Like it's crazy. Absolutely. It's really crazy. So when I look at Devin Booker, he's just got that. It is similar to Kobe because it's like, just get me to the fourth quarter, have it be a close game, and I got you. Like similar to Joel, you know what I mean? Get us to the fourth, Joel got you. Like he's on that type of level. Portland or Phoenix in a playoff series?
With Phoenix.
I'm probably going Phoenix, man, just because of Chris Paul, honestly. But, Portland is always a tough out.
Do they got CJ back yet?
No.
I didn't get that.
They didn't get that
they don't
either.
got CJ back, no.
So that's also we talk a lot about, Portland, and we say a lot about Dame, and, Dame is great. He's very great. I will give you that. And he's very clutch, but that team is different with CJ McCollum. Like he definitely brings a different tenacity, a different smarts to the game. So all things being considered, I still would take Phoenix, but that becomes a lot more tight game with CJ McCollum because they match up very, very well.
Agree.
In that the front court.
Yeah, and then you throw in, guys like Melo. I think they're playing without Nurkic right now too, and Zach.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
They're without a lot of their big men too. So Portland's tough though. You know what I mean? So like, if Phoenix gets knocked out by Portland, that's not a bad L. You know what I mean? No. Like that's not a bad loss. Portland's been consistent the last couple of years. Even gave Lakers a little scare, right? Like nothing crazy, but gave them a little scare in that first round series. Anytime you're going against Dame, I mean, I would put him, in that same category with Devin Booker. Like anytime you're going against those guys, yeah, he said in playoff series, give me both LAs, Utah, Portland, and San Antonio. I mean, San Antonio probably not for me. They're just too young right now. I think that they got some pieces in place. Obviously, Pop, depending on how long he sticks there, but they're too young. They just don't stick out to me as a contender. I would definitely have Phoenix. I would probably put Phoenix up there with Utah and the Lakers and the Clippers. That's probably my top 4 right now. But Denver's another team that's kind of going on the wayside here this season. You know what I mean? They knocked out the Clippers last year. But I think the Clippers are a team that's getting kind of slept on. PG, Paul George, he got clowned last playoffs, right? And this man
playoff PG,
playoff PG, playoff Paul, playoff.
No playoff wins ever, dude.
I think he got embarrassed though, and I think he's playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. But yeah, I think Denver's down there in that conversation. I would expect them to get it together, but they are struggling right now. It's still early, for real. We still got to watch this stuff play out, shape out. So, I mean, all this talk right now, we got to 50-50-90. Yeah, that's a crazy percentage right there. But, yeah, I think you guys are spot on. Jazz are up there, obviously. The thing I like about the Jazz is the coaching and the hard play. Like, they play basketball the right way. I think I talked about this last week with JD. But the Jazz play basketball the right way. They have good shooting. They have great defense. And then you have the star power with Donovan Mitchell. The question is, how much star power does Donovan Mitchell really have? Because I don't think that he is like a Devin Booker. But Donovan Mitchell is really good. I will say that. I'll kind of finish it up here, Sam. I always do this at the end of the shows. Anybody new on the show this season, obviously I know you've been on my show before, but not the NBA show. So I got to get your top 5 NBA players. It can be your favorite. It can be the best in the league right now, whatever you prefer.
I'll go my top 5 in the league. I don't think there's a question. I think it's still LeBron, number 1. I'd follow with KD because I just don't think there's a better shooter in the NBA. Anthony Davis at 3. Damian Lillard at 4 and Giannis at 5. So I think it's a pretty cookie cutter, a little bit. I think Luka and Kawhi, Curry, and Embiid and Harden just miss out on that 5 to 10 range. But I don't think there's anyone who's cutting off LeBron from that top spot right now, and I don't think there's going to be anyone else until he leaves.
Yeah, it's something about LeBron, and maybe one day we could all just hop on here and have like a LeBron episode, like when LeBron retires, just recapping LeBron's career. I mean, that will take days, but nah, LeBron, he's steady with it. I don't know, man. Giannis is steady, but it's like how much do you value playoff time? My man Matt McGinty got his top 5 up here. KD, Bron, Giannis, Kawhi, Steph. It's all about preference, what game style you really like. You're gonna hold those higher. Me, I got Embiid in my top 5, and it's based off of this. When Embiid is in the game and he's on his game, who is better than him? And I noticed it in the Lakers game, and maybe people will kill me for this. But up until, and I mentioned this on the Daily Dose earlier as well, up until LeBron pushes Embiid in midair, Embiid is the best player in that game. he had control of that game. You know, we love LeBron. LeBron is one of the GOATs. Embiid was dominating that game. LeBron, AD, he made AD look like a little man. And that's what's crazy about Embiid. And that's why, you know, I can talk about this all day. Let me not even go in this Embiid tear. But I appreciate everybody's top five. It's such a perspective thing. It's all about what you do.
I agree.
Yeah. I would say like we do need to do a GOAT series. That would be a great series to do.
Yeah, thank God Soko isn't here anymore. He turned our NFL draft chat into a I did it, but I left after that because I knew I was inciting a riot. Yeah, I pulled the Jordan over LeBron thing, and Soko's just a big LeBron guy. He went absolutely nuts. Even after the other 9 people in the league all voted for Jordan, he was the only LeBron guy. He still kept it going for about 3 hours.
Hey, that's
3 hours. I had to listen to him, man. That was.
I would love to produce that show. I would love to come on and produce a GOAT show, and you know we could even do a top 10, like top 10 of all time, and then we get it narrowed down because we gonna probably all have the same top, 4.
See, here's the problem with Jordan versus LeBron. You can have a GOAT debate, but the real debate is who's the best versus who's the greatest. It's like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Everyone agrees that Brady's the best or the greatest, but everyone also agrees that Rodgers is the best.
Yeah.
Until you see him play up against them. And like the thing that helped me for this, not to go to football too much, but what helped me really make my mind up about this was watching them this year. And all things being considered, like Tom Brady is literally 43 years old. And
he's still doing this shit.
And he's still doing that shit at a very high level. And I don't think he's going to retire
by anything. Yeah, he's the greatest and it's less of a debate in football than it is in basketball. Oh, yeah. I'll give you that. I just think you have to weigh, that you first have to weigh the eras. You have to weigh, the type of players they were playing against. You have to weigh who was on their teams. And LeBron is, I think you have to conclude that LeBron is the best. He's the most talented. He's done the most. Well, not done the most in terms of championships or averages, but LeBron is all around the best player that we've ever seen. But Jordan did the most.
Yeah.
He won the most.
Yeah.
He had the best stats.
We're going to have to talk about this, guys.
LeBron doesn't make sense. Like, it just like when you look at him, it's a brain. It's without saying too much, it's a mind fuck almost. Because it's like you see this big, huge person. He's not supposed to move like this. Like, it's like watching Zion. It's like he's not supposed to be able to do the things he does, but he's able to do them. So,
right.
Listen,
hey,
that was just nuts. We need to do it though.
Yeah, let's plan it, man. We can definitely plan that. We can do like a top 10s. We can do a GOAT. We can do whatever you want to do. But hey, guys, thank you guys so much for the great content tonight. I had a pleasure, a very good time here. Before we get out of here, of course, I'm going to let you guys plug yourselves one more time. Just let everybody know what you're doing. Like I said, this episode will be re-released tomorrow for anybody that missed the whole episode. So we will get this out there. Guys, be sure to go follow me on Twitter at Scotty Drowned. Follow the sports page at ST Philly Sports 1. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. That's the most important part here. Thank you to everybody that listened, that joined in, commented on the show. I appreciate it. That's what it's all about, the engagement. I'm here to interact and get conversation flowing. Sam, JD, if you guys want to close this out, plug yourselves in. Sam, you can go first, my man.
Well, I want to thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. First NBA podcast for me this year. Very much enjoyed talking. Felt I was a little bit behind you guys at times, but still felt like I managed to hold my own a little bit. But
thing.
Go follow
my man.
You guys can all follow me at Swagman95 every week, every Friday. A new episode of Swags and Soko, talking your favorite fantasy sports, boys. Again, thank you, Scotty. I really appreciate the opportunity.
No problem at all, my man.
And again, guys, thank you for having me on. I was a pleasure meeting Sam. Sam, you are a beast. It was hard going that behind you. I won't be doing that next time. I will be going in front of you.
All you, my
So
man.
just so you know.
All you, my man.
And so you can follow me again at JD Oracle _2TW. My show is on Friday on Heat Ratio Sports Network, guys. If you have nothing else to do, and even if you do, please go to Heat Ratio on YouTube. Give us a subscribe. Just hit the button. Then you don't have to worry about when you don't have to think about what day we're on. It just comes up as a notification. Like, we would really appreciate it. And I know you guys are watching because we see the views, but just do that. Hit that subscribe button. It's right there. It's real little. I promise you, they won't bug you too much. We don't bug you too much. But that was it. Oh, shout out to Andre on the Heat Ratio Network. This is one of his Anomaly hoodies. It's fire. I love it. I wore it for Sam. I know I wore it for you, man. So I appreciate it.
I peeped that hoodie at the beginning of the show.
Shout out to my boys at 4th and John as well. Speaking of the John shirt.
Sure. I will go ahead and shout out Heat Ratio Sports. You beat me to it, JD. Be sure to go subscribe. We're doing big things over there. You guys got to catch this full lineup every week. I know we did some crossovers with Soko and Swagman there. So definitely keep your eyes out for both. 4th and John, always putting out the great content as well. Thank you, guys. Shout out to Heat Ratio Sports. Shout out to everybody that viewed and listened tonight. That's going to be it for this episode, guys. Peace.
Peace.